Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I am bringing you my new TBR game, Rotating Decks. For those of you who have followed me for a while, you're probably thinking, what? Di, you're doing a TBR game? You've constantly said that you can't stick to TBRs, and that is true, but things have changed for me, so I'll get into a little bit of why I'm doing this and how my game works in a little bit, but I do want to let you know right off the bat that my game is based on a combination of two other TBR games that I've seen. The first one being Uno Picks My TBR, and I believe that one is done by Writer of Wild Words. And the second one is A Court of Cards, which is done by oceanreads. I'll link both of their channels down in the description box below so that you can check out their TBR games and the rest of the content that they bring. I do find them very interesting, and obviously their games inspired me a lot to do this. So why am I doing a TBR game after saying how many times that I have such a hard time sticking to a TBR? Well, I have not been reading very much lately. That's pretty much the gist of it. I am a mood reader, like I've always said on my channel. I used to have a very hard time sticking to TBRs. If you look back at my earlier videos, like when I first started my channel, you will see that I do have TBR videos up there, but I was never successful in sticking with them. And so I scrapped that idea and I decided to just go with reading what I felt like reading, and that has worked for me to this year. Well, I should say to last year. So in 2020, my reading changed a lot. At the beginning of the year, it was the same as normal, but when everything started shutting down and then I started working from home, I started having a harder time deciding on what I wanted to read next. On top of being a mood reader, I am a very indecisive person. I always have been. It's very hard for me to make decisions on things, but it's never affected my reading until last year. One of the members in our Mystery Madness Discord group had asked me what I thought the reason was behind me not being able to decide on my next books anymore. And I really think it has to do with the fact that since I've been working from home, I am surrounded by my books constantly. I am seeing them, I am looking at them, and every time I look at my bookshelf, it's like, oh, I want to read that book. Oh, I want to read that book. But because there's so many books I want to read, I can't decide on one. And because I couldn't decide on one to read next, I stopped reading. So towards the end of 2020, there were some months where the only novel I read was the Book One Cozy's Club selection. And had I not been running Book One Cozy's Club, or my first in the series, Cozy Mystery Book Club, I probably wouldn't have read a novel. That's how bad it's gotten for me. So I started watching these TBR game videos because they started popping up on my feed. Now, the only TBR video that I had, or the only TBR game video that I had watched prior to seeing other TBR game videos pop up on my feed on YouTube, was the TBR Avatar TBR game from Book Roast. I enjoy watching her videos, and she has done this TBR Avatar game for a few months now. I think it was back in October or November of 2020. I could be wrong, but I enjoy watching her videos of that. But up until a month or so ago, I had never had any other TBR game videos pop up on my channel or on my feed. So I wasn't really aware that there were other people doing this, and one of the first videos I saw was oceanreads' Court of Cards, and then I started, watching other people's TBR game videos, and I decided that this might be helpful to me. It might help rejuvenate my reading, which is what I want, because I don't want to not be reading because I can't decide on a book. So if I can let the game choose for me, what book to read, or at least guide me to some destination, that would be great. So I've created this game. It's very much a combination of the 2 games I've mentioned, and so I'm hoping this will help me out going forward, to help me read more, help me get back to the reading pace that I was at prior to the world shutting down, basically. So let me tell you how my game will work, and then we'll flip over to some gameplay. So like I said, my game is called Rotating Decks, and that is because I will be rotating the deck of cards that I will be using. So because I mentioned that it was also based on Uno Picks My TBR, the decks of cards I will be using are Uno cards. So I have a bunch of them right here. Let me pick them up. So I have several decks of Uno cards that I will be using for this game. It will help keep things fresh for me so that I'm not looking at the same deck all the time, and I think it'll be fun for you too while watching. So I'll show you what decks I have, and then I'll explain how my game works. So first up on the top here, we have the Tokyo 2020 Olympics Uno deck. This is a, I guess, special deck that they released for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. And so you can see that the mascot for the Olympics is there. And you can also see that this deck has a special rule. Some of the decks have this special rule card, and I'll tell you how that will play into my game. Some of them do not. So anyway, that's one of the decks I have. Then we have the Disney Princesses Uno. This one also has a special card. I have Masters of the Universe, which has a special card. The Mattel Classic Toys 75th edition, 75th anniversary edition, which features all different classic Mattel toys. This one does not have a special card. I have the Uno Corns cards. This one also has a special card. I have the Jurassic World Uno deck. This has a special card. I have the Super Mario Brothers Uno deck, which has a special card. I have the Mickey Mouse and Friends Uno deck, which also has a special card. And last but not least, I have the Peanuts Special Edition Vintage Peanuts card deck, which comes in this tin. And this is the deck that I will use to explain the cards. So if you've ever played Uno before, you know that the cards come not in suits, but in colors. So there's red, yellow, green, and blue. So those colors will correspond to prompt colors. So if I pick a blue card, I will pick a blue prompt. And if I pick a yellow card, I will pick a yellow prompt. Now, all of the prompts that I will be using are highly tailored to my reading. They are things that I will read. They are things that are, tailored to my reading tastes. So I will not be sharing my list of prompts with you because, like I said, they're tailored specifically to me. There are 80 or so prompts, so about 20 prompts per color. And then I have a punishment deck. Those punishments, again, are highly tailored to me. And so there are about 30 of those, but I only have 20 out and at a time. Within all of the prompts, there are not only prompts to tell me what types of books to read, but there are very specific prompts. There are prompts that will tell me exactly what book to read. So a title of a book will be on the prompt. If there is a title of a book on a prompt, that prompt cannot be reused because obviously I should be reading it during that month. So I will take that prompt out and replace it with another. If there is a series listed on the prompt, that means I need to either read the start of that series or read the next installment in that series that I am up to. Things like that. But there are also like special cards in Uno. So I will go over with you now what I will be doing for those special cards should I pull those. So first up we have the reverse card, and if this card comes up, I will be redoing my previous pull. So for example, if this is my second pull, I will be scrapping the first pull prompt and repicking a prompt based on the color of this card. So right off the top, I'm just going to pick the top blue card. If I pick this one, it would be a blue prompt. So I would pick the top prompt off the blue deck. If this card comes up first, I'm just going to pick the first prompt off the top of the blue deck, or whatever color the reverse card comes up as. So next up we have skip, and skip means that I don't have to read a book for this card or this selection during the month. This doesn't mean that I can't read an extra book during the month. It just means that I don't have to pull a prompt for it, so I could just read whatever I want. Next up we have draw two. So if I pull this card, that means I need to pick two prompts. So in this case it is a green draw two, so that means I will be picking the first two prompts off the green stack. And it'll work for any other color. If it was red, I'd pick the first two prompts off the red, and so forth. Then I have the wild card. If I pull the wild card, that means I can pull a prompt from any color that I would like. And I don't have a number on the card, so I will be picking the very first card off the prompt deck for whatever color I decide. The next one is draw four wild. If I pull this card, this means that I need to pull a punishment card. So I do have a punishment deck, and I will just be picking the first card or the first prompt off the punishment deck if I pull this card. Lastly, like I mentioned, there were special wild cards or special rule cards in the deck. So this particular deck looks like this. It is a wild red baron. If I pull the special wild, I can read whatever I want. I don't have to read a prompt, but I do have to read something for this. So it's different from a skip. A skip means I don't have to read anything at all, but I can if I want to. If I pick the special wild, I have to read something for this, but it could be whatever I want, and I don't have to pick a prompt for it. So those are pretty much the kind of rules of the game. Obviously, there are other cards, in the deck that are like normal cards, and those will like tell me which prompt and which deck to pick from. So for example, I have picked a red 3. This means that I will pick the third prompt card in the red deck, so I'll count down to 3, and that will be the prompt that I choose for this card. And so that's pretty much how my game works. There is one other rule that I need to mention to you. If I pick any of the wild cards, so any of these cards, I have to do whatever I have set aside for those cards. So pick a prompt, pick a punishment card, or read whatever I want. But I also need to change the deck. And that is where the title of my game is coming from. So if I ever pick a wild card, that means the deck will change. So that's fun for you and me, and we'll get all of these Uno decks used, hopefully. There are quite a few types of wilds within each deck, so I'm hoping that we will be able to see the deck change more often than not, but I'm also hoping that we will get to spend a little bit of time with each deck. So let me flip you over to the gameplay of my first month of rotating decks, and I will be back with you to show you all of the books that I have chosen for the prompts. I have to do it this way because of the reverse card. So I will flip you over to that gameplay now, and I'll be back with you in a bit. So here's the setup for my new TBR game. You will see that I have cards that correspond to each color in the Uno deck. So red, yellow, green, blue. These are my punishment cards. Hopefully I will not have to use those, but there is a chance that a punishment card will need to be picked. So I have them out on the desk right now. We will be using the Super Mario deck today. This deck does include a special wild, so that is fun. I have already pre-shuffled these cards, but I'm going to have my daughter cut the deck for you so that you know that I don't know what the top cards are going to be. So now that we have the cut out of the way, I will draw my 3 cards for the month, starting with a wild, which means I will need to switch the deck right off the bat. My daughter will go and decide which deck we will be using next. Totally unexpected, but wild also means that I can choose a prompt from any color that I would like. So what color should I pick? My daughter says I should pick blue because that is my favorite. So since there is no number attached to this deck or this card, I'm just going to pick right off the top. So my first prompt will be, can you see that? Random number generator. So what that means is that I will be taking my TBR from Goodreads and doing a random number generator on the list, and that will pick the book that I will be reading for the month. So I will have to shuffle the next deck, and I will be back in a bit. Okay, so we are back. My daughter has picked the Disney Mickey Mouse and Friends deck this time. This does include a special wild, so again, that's good. But this deck does not include blue, so I'm going to use this salmon color will be blue for this deck. So if I pick this salmon color, I will be picking a blue prompt. So I have already shuffled this deck. My daughter will do the cut. She is a bit salty that we didn't get to use the Super Mario deck very long, but hopefully her cut this time will be a little better. So she will go ahead and cut that now. Okay, so 2 more picks for the month. Our next card will be a green 7. So those are these. I'm going to count to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the 7th card, and what is it? It says paranormal. So I will be picking a paranormal read from my TBR. And one last pick, a red 8, which are these over here. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. This also says random number generator. So that's actually pretty good. So let me go and find books for the prompts that we have chosen today, and I will be back with you in a bit. Okay, so we are back. That was fun. It was a little clunky because it is my first time trying to film a game like this and doing things like that, but I had some fun. I hope you did too. Obviously, there was a big surprise on the first poll. Needless to say, myself, my daughter, and probably you were very surprised that we had to switch out the deck right away. I'm a little bit upset because I specifically picked the Mario deck this month because it was the anniversary of Super Mario. I was hoping to spend a little bit of time with that deck, but the cards have said that the decks needed to be changed. So we will be playing with the Mickey and Friends deck until we get another wild. But that was fun. I had some fun. So let me show you what books I have picked out for these prompts. The first prompt I picked was this blue random number generator. So when I get a random number generator, I will just pick a random number from 1 to whatever my final number is on my want to read list on Goodreads. Now, just to let you know, if you ever go to my Goodreads profile and take a look at my want to read list, that is not all books that I own. My want to read list has not only books that I own, but it also has books that I am interested in reading or catch my attention. So there are quite a few. So just so you know, I do have random number generator as a prompt for all 4 colors. The only deck that doesn't have a random number generator as a prompt is the punishment deck. So that's why I have 2 random number generator prompts here. I do want to try to take my TBR or want to read number down, so that's going to help me out a lot. So for my first random number generator pick, that was number 1933. Just from that number alone, without even looking at my want to read shelf, you know that the number is pretty high. But number 1933 on my want to read list was The Wallflower Volume 18. This is a manga, and I am not up to volume or installment number 8. So in cases like this, where I land on a book that's in a series that I am not quite up to that particular book, I will be reading whatever installment comes next for me. So whatever installment I need to read next. So in this instance, I am going to start from the beginning. So I have volumes 1, 2, and 3 here of The Wallflower by Tomoko Hayakawa. These are published by Del Rey and is rated older teen. And so I have actually read volume 1. I read it back in 2015, but because it's been so long, I've decided to go ahead and reread this volume. Because it is a manga, I decided to go ahead and read 3 volumes per manga. So yeah, I'm going to pick volumes 1, 2, and 3 up for that prompt. So my random number generator has gotten me to The Wallflower. My next prompt was paranormal. And for this prompt, I decided to go with The Book of Life by Deborah Harkness. This is the 3rd book in the All Souls trilogy, and I did actually start this at the end of February, before March Mystery Madness started. I'd like to get this one finished. It is quite thick, but from what I read in February, I really enjoyed it, and I believe I'm only about 10% in at the moment. So I will be completing this book for the prompt of paranormal. So for my last pick, that was another random number generator. So for this prompt, it was number 1216, which was Reunion. This is the third book in the Mediator series by Meg Cabot. I read the first two books of these quite a few years ago. It is a series that I really enjoy. It follows this high school girl here named Suze, and she can talk to the spirits of dead people. So she's the mediator, kind of liaison between the living and the dead, and she helps these spirits pass over to the afterlife. So in this particular one, there are 4 vengeful spirits. They're out for revenge against the person who believes caused their death, which happens to be another student at her high school. So I will be reading that for the random number generator prompt. I will be reading a 4th book, so I will actually have 4 books every month. That 4th book is going to be the Book One Cozies Club selection. So the selection for April is Midsummer Night's Mischief. This is the first book in the Wiccan Wheel series by Jennifer David Hess. So that will be my 4th kind of read for the month of April. And that will do it for my TBR for April. Now, how do punishments work in my game? So, I need to read at least 100 pages of each selection in order not to have to pull a punishment in May. I believe that's very doable for me. That'll also allow me to pick up something else should I not be feeling one of my reads. And so as long as I read 100 pages or 1 volume of manga, I guess, as long as I read 100 pages or 1 volume of manga of these books that I have selected for April, I will not have to pull a punishment card for May. At least not one, because I didn't read the books that I was supposed to read. So that pretty much does it for my TBR for April. Let me know what you will be reading for April. Do you do a TBR game? If so, let me know down in the comments below. If nothing else, if you could leave me a club emoji down in the comments below, that would be greatly appreciated and would help me out a lot. I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.